I mean, how long were you there for? Like you said, it was work experience. Were you there for, say, a week or two, or how long was
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
literally like a week.
I
Like
was
it
it.
was, it
Okay.
was, it was a coming. It was literally there and went. But I mean, it was like the biggest eye opener for a 15-year-old. I think, like, you know, you see like these things from the outside, like, oh, okay, cool, X Factor and whatever. But when you're in the middle of it, and then you're like, oh, it's actually not. It's like demystifies everything that it's
Mm.
possible.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that I see in artists, generally speaking, like a lot. I mean, if we talk about some of the stuff that we're doing over at Hypertribe at the moment, we're doing the Pioneer Mentoring Program, which is helping create diversity in the music industry. And one of those things is that we have a lot of artists, female artists, that kind of they come into they come into the music industry, and there's only about 20% of artists that are signed to major record labels are female. It's something that we want to rebalance, because we're obviously missing a lot of good talent. Like, if you think about,
Of
there's probably
course.
about 30% out there that we're actually not touching on. So one of those things is confidence, and just seeing that you can do it. When we pair these like established artists that will mentor these up and coming artists together, what we see is that the biggest comment that we get is like, it's actually not like magic. It's like, okay, you do a few steps and it gives them hope.
Hmm.
And so it's about kind of like revealing some of that mystery, I think, is one of the most important things that people can do.
That's brilliant. I mean, when did it all start for you, Hyperdrive? When was that moment that you wanted to start something to really help out people?
um I think I always tried to start businesses around like helping in music and stuff.
Yeah.
But so I had an events company. I started doing events at university in Leeds, and Leeds is a great breeding ground for people who want to be in music, to learn, because it's small enough. It's not like London, it's small enough, but so kind of if you mess up, it's kind of more forgiving, let's put it that way. Or if
Yeah, yeah.
it's also like, it's also vibrant enough so you can actually do something. So there's kind of like, Leeds is a great place, and there's so much talent that comes out of Leeds. It's unbelievable. And once I started packing out shows with some of the local bands and stuff, and then we moved it all down to London. And then when we moved it down to London, with the promoter down here, they said, we can see that obviously you guys are doing something good. um, that kind of just started to build. But events aren't necessarily scalable, and that was something for me that I really wanted to kind of get to grips with. I was like, this just isn't scalable, like, in terms of the cost and the money and the time, like, though, it just wasn't equating, like, at all. So I was like, cool, how can I do this, like, help more people in terms of showcases and stuff at scale? And that's when I actually got an offer for investment from one of the guys. He used to run Metropolis Studio. He used to own Metropolis Studio. Sorry.
Wow, I used to work there as
Um,
well.
yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
But yeah. So he has. He's got capital. I mean, he doesn't just own Metropolis. He owns a couple of things. But he kind of said to me, uh, you know, I was looking at, basically, sounds a bit stupid, but like, it was like an underground X Factor, and came into contact with somebody who had quite good experience in the music industry, generally speaking. So they were interested in too. So he put us together to have a good conversation about a few things, and then he said, like, if you can kind of get it to this point, here's the investment. And then I took a look at it for 6 months, and I realized an underground X Factor would go under. I was like, this is going to flop, like, 100%. So I was like, I'm not going to take your money, I'm just going to keep working on this. So that was probably like 2016.
Mm.
And then from that point, I mean, I was doing management at the time as well, and also I still have a music studio, but the studio was doing fine. And so I sat with this idea and this concept, and just started fleshing it out, starting doing competitions, started understanding that, how can we help artists at scale to make money quicker, or this idea of sustainable income. So being able to get people to a place where they can make a living, is really important. Like, we're not talking the 1%, okay? Like, yes, it's great if you can reach that, but let's just get you to like a point where you can actually make a living. Like, I'm kind of sick of the kind of stereotype of the starving musician. I wanted to change that perspective. I just thought that there has to be a way in which we do this. And there's a lot of innovation that needs to happen in the music industry, generally speaking.
Mm.
So bringing all of that together, like it was just like 2016 kickstarted, things like accelerator programs, looking at tech, looking at the tech industry. It's really important that, you take from other industries, you take a look at different models from different industries and bring them into music, because most likely music industry hasn't done it.
No, tell me
It's
about
so behind.
it.
Which is great for me, because I just go, oh yeah, let's take something from the insurance industry. Okay, that works. Like, let's just remodel it. And like, there's business books out there. I'm like, we could literally just change a couple of words and republish this. Like, it just, obviously that we wouldn't do that. But I'm just saying, like, there's so much that applies to the music industry that I think sometimes there is a pretense of like, we're in the music industry, like they're kind of like ego that kind of gets in the way, like, but the music industry, and that's why I really hope that I can say, like, I'm not actually in the music industry, I'm kind of on the outside, because I think there's an archaic legacy model that is so anchored in the music industry, and I would quite like to be on the outside of that, because that's where innovation happens.
Definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned innovation there, because that's one of the things we're trying to change and add into this industry. What kind of things are you looking to add in now, apart from what you just apart from what you just mentioned right now? What kind of extra innovation are you trying to bring in?
Well, we can't give everything away.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. But there's quite a lot of, it's just, again, like, one of the biggest things is sustainable income. So taking a look at different types of revenue streams, really taking a look at, one of the biggest things that we have always looked at is building artists as influencers. Like, they are brands in themselves. And I think people forget that. And also building the artist entrepreneur. Okay, so that's one of the biggest things that you'll see throughout Hypertribe. It's like, we build the artist entrepreneur. So we're talking about someone who can make music, and that can be your platform. But also, how do you monetize that as a business? Like, how do you really look into, if you are a brand, like, how do you, as an artist, you are a brand naturally. You have an audience. How do you keep going with that? How do you keep expanding on that? One of those things could be merch. One of those things could be, we've got artists that we're working with at the moment that want to start record labels, and we have the know-how, and also artists who have already done that as mentors to be able to talk about that. It could really be so many different things. There's so many people that come to me and, like, spirituality is a really big part of my music, and I'm like, okay, great, well, how do we monetize that? How do we make that a business for you, as like either a side hustle or something else that you're doing as well? But it all should be succinct under one particular brand.